Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to add a little framing to our house, specifically a roof from this top view. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is switch to our framing layer. Okay, what I want to do first is make an outline of our little shed, our little house. So I think the easiest way to do that is just to have a rectangle drawn over the existing rectangle. So I started the rectangle command, REC, enter or space, pick my first point here, and since I already have an existing other point here, I'm just going to pick that other point. I'm going to zoom out. By the way, something that I forgot to mention in the previous videos, in order to zoom out, you use your scroll wheel on your mouse. I think that makes it a lot easier. So scroll down to zoom out, scroll up to zoom in, and then you could click your mouse wheel to pan. Okay, so now that we've got our outline of our tool shed, what we want to do is make what is called the overhang of a house. Typically that overhang, I believe, I can't remember if it was 16 inches or 1'6". So I'm just going to go with a bigger number. So I'm just gonna make it 1'6". So the easiest way to do it in this case is using the offset command. Again, going back to our little cheat sheet here, offset is just O. So let's do offset or O, enter, starts the offset command, and it says specify distance. I'm gonna say 1'6". That is 1'6". Again, enter. Select the object to offset. So I'm just gonna click this outline. Oops, because the two walls are overlapping, it's asking you for the selection. Do you want to select the white polyline in the walls layer or the green polyline in the framing layer? In this case, we want to select the green layer. So I click that, and now which direction do you want to offset? Inward or outward? In this case, because it is an overhang, I'm going to click outward. So I click, and that's just a regular left click. Okay, so this is going to be essentially the footprint of your roof. So what I'm going to do with this inner rectangle, and this is just for this inner rectangle, selection is the green one, and I'm only going to do it for the green one. I'm going to make that hidden, so I'm just going to change the line type to hidden. So if you zoom in now, you should be able to see the lines are dashed, and I'm going to fix that in a little bit later. For now, let's focus on our roof. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to call this bottom side the front and this back side the back, or this top side the back. So what I want to do is I want to have the front gabled, and I'm going to show an example of a gabled roof here, and the back hipped. A gabled roof, all it is just it kind of, both ends kind of meet at the center. So I'm just going to draw a center line here. Keep in mind, I'm still in my framing layer. So I started my line command, L, enter, and I'm going to pick this midpoint, and I'm just going to draw it an arbitrary length up to about here. We're going to fix it in a bit, and then I cancel out of this command using the escape button, and so whenever you need to cancel a command, you just press escape. Okay, so here's where it gets a little interesting. For hipped portions of the roof, in order to form the hip, that hip has to come out at a 45-degree angle. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to draw a line, enter, L, enter, and I'm going to, again, arbitrary distance, I'm going to draw it to here. Okay. Next, obviously, these two lines in real life would not overlap. So there are two easy ways to fix that. Because there are only two lines, I could either use my trim command, so tr, enter. What do I want to use as a cutting plane? I want to use this cutting plane to trim this off, or vice versa. I want to use this cutting plane to trim this off. The cutting plane basically just tells you, or it tells the program, where do you want the other line to stop. In this case though, because I want to cut both, I want to use it all as use every line as a cutting plane or a cutting edge. So I'm just going to press enter, and now by default it automatically it'll stop at the next line. So I'm going to trim this. So let me escape from this command for now, because there's another way of doing this as well. You could do either or. I'm just doing it this way to demonstrate both ways. The other way you could trim those, I guess, extra, that excess, is the fillet command. So I would put fillet. In this case, in NanoCad, it prompts you for the radius. I don't think it asks you that in AutoCad. I would need to go back and check. But just pay attention to the command down here where my mouse is. And typically there should be an option, I believe it's just R enter, to specify the radius. But in this case, for NanoCad, it actually prompts us for the radius. So in this case, our radius is going to be 0, which is the default. And now we pick the two lines that we want to add that fillet to. So I'm going to pick this one and this one. And what it does, it automatically trims anything that you didn't want, and any excess from these two segments. Okay. Also, when you add a radius, what it does, it'll not only trim that excess, it'll also add a radius, like a curve between the two segments. Okay, so again, escape to exit my command. Now I need to draw this exact line on this side. In this case, however, I know that this is mirrored. These two lines will be the exact same, but they are facing the opposite directions. So what I'm going to do in this case, that I don't think I've mentioned it up to this point, I'm going to use a new command called the mirror command, mi. Okay, so what it does, it essentially allows you to, well, let me show you. Mi, enter. Okay, so it says, what do you want to mirror? Select the object. So I'm going to select this line. And really, if you wanted to select anything else, you could select it then. Okay, so I'm just going to, I have my line selected, press enter or space, and then it says, specify first point of a mirror line. So here you have to draw a mirror line. So where do you want this thing to be mirrored? In this case, I would like to draw an imaginary line that dissects my shed. So as long as you draw 2 points within that line, it doesn't matter where it is. Since I already have an existing line here, I'm just going to pick this point and this point. And then it says, do you want to erase source objects? In other words, this line is your source object. Do you want to erase it or do you want to keep it? I don't want to erase it, so I'm going to, the default is no, so I'm just going to put enter for no to keep that default. And now we have our hips. Okay. Now, the next in the next segment, we're going to add our rafters. So these are the main beams that form our framing, and now we're going to add rafters. Now, in the United States, these rafters are typically spaced out at either 12 inches, 16 inches, or 24 inches, depending on, really, I think it depends on the city or the local municipality. For now, just to keep it simple, I'm going to keep them at 24 inches. So I'm going to do it in two different ways on either side. So I'm going to start on this I'll start on the right side. So I'm going to start the line command, and I'm going to draw the first line up here 24 inches from that corner. So I'm going up here 24, enter, and I'm going to draw it all the way to this middle line. Okay, so one way to do this is to use your offset command. So specify offset distance. In this case, we want it to be 24 inches apart, so I'm going to specify the offset distance as 24 inches, and you could keep doing that, up, and you're just offsetting this as you go. And I think, yeah, okay. Okay, now I'm gonna press escape again. That cancels me out. That cancels out my command. Notice these rafters look fine, but then when it comes to this hip, you have some nasty intersections. So again, I'm going to use the trim command. Enter. In this case, though, I don't want everything to be a cutting edge. I want one cutting edge, and I want this hip to be my cutting edge. So I'm going to select it. It says, yeah, trim, vector, current settings, projection, none. Yeah, select objects. So I selected this. Okay, now it says select object to trim, and I'm going to either pick each one, or you could select, you use your window, your dashed window, to select multiple. And if you notice, because this is your cutting edge, it'll cut all the way to this edge. Doesn't matter if there are any other lines ahead of it, it'll say, nope, this isn't my cutting edge, this is, so I'm going to trim it all the way over. All the way over here. Okay. So I'm going to escape out of that. Okay. A very easy way to essentially get these lines on this side is to mirror it. So that's what I'm going to do here. Whoops. Let's see, it's selecting things that I don't want it to select. Okay, select. Select. Okay. Again, I'm going to use my mirror command, MI, enter. In this case, I'm just going to use this endpoint. And again, as long as you draw a straight line, the second point doesn't really matter where it is. You could either make it down here, make it up here, as long as you draw that line. Press enter. And then again, do you want to erase the source objects? No, we do not. So just press enter, or if you want to specify no, N for no, press enter. And we have these two sides of our framing. But if you notice, now we're missing this side right here. So in this case, what you can do is, what I'm going to do at least, is I'm going to draw a line, L for line, from this corner here. And I know that I want the framing to go this way. So again, I'm going to use my offset command. It says offset distance. It's already set at 2 feet or 24 inches, so I'm just going to accept that. Right. And then in this case, what I'm going to do is use my extend command. And there's a reason why I stopped here, and I'll explain in a bit. But for now, I'm just going to use my extend command. EX. Enter. In this case, you're not looking for a cutting edge. You're looking for I think it's a projection edge or a projection plane. It serves kind of the same but opposite purpose as the cutting edge for your trim command. So I'm going to use this line, okay? Because if you select all, then it's going to, you're using this to extend your line. So in this case, if I select this line, it's going to stop at this line, right? And that's fine. Cancel, escape to cancel. But I'm just gonna press enter to start my previous command. But if you specify, hey, I want this to be my projection edge or projection plane. So I specified it, press enter. What it does, it skips over these edges. Similar to the trim command. It's actually very similar to the trim command. It just kind of does the opposite, if that makes sense. Oops. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it up to this point, except I'm going to use a different command this time. I'm going to use something called the array command. AR. Whoops. AR. Ah, this is annoying me. So the array command. What does the array command do? Well, it forms an array or a pattern. Some other CAD software calls it patterns of an object that you're working on. So AR, enter. So there are two types of arrays, rectangular array or a polar array. So what a rectangular array does is it makes a pattern of an object in two directions, in the left and right and up and down, as you can see here. A polar array makes a pattern of an object around an axis, as you can see here. So if you have an object here, it would make a pattern surrounding an axis. But what we want to do here is a rectangular array. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make it up to this point here, just to match up with this rafter here. These are your rows, these are your columns. In this case, we just want one row. Okay, the columns are typically the ones oriented vertically. So think about a column in a building, in an architecture. A column is like a big pillar, essentially. So think about a pillar goes up and down just like a column in the spreadsheet goes up and down. Here, we would have 1, 2, 3 columns. 4 actually, if you include the original, which we need to. And just one row of them. So I'm gonna, so I changed the rows to 1, columns to 4, and it's gonna ask, okay, what's your row offset? Well, it doesn't matter because you only have one row. What's your column offset? Again, this spacing is 24 inches, so I'm gonna put 24. And one very important thing that we forgot is, okay, what do you want to copy? Well, we need to select the object, so I'm just gonna, 2 feet. Okay, so I'm gonna click here to there you go. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to select this object. Column offset is going to be 24 inches, and it did it for us. Right, so now in this case, I'm going to use the extend command again. EX, oops, misspelled that. EX, extend. What do you want to extend to? This line. Okay, enter. What do you want to extend? All of this. So now we've made this. Now, again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mirror all of these. MI, enter. So the final step here is to include our king rafters. So that is from this midpoint all the way down. This is where the hips join, and we have to include them on either side as well. Okay, here, and I'm just going to mirror it. MI, enter, form the line, no to source object. I'm going to press escape, and now we have our frame for our roof. So one last thing before we go, what I want to do is I just want to see the framing elements. None of the walls, none of the windows. Two ways of doing that. You could either turn off the layer of the wall, sorry, that's doors and windows and the walls. What I'd prefer to do though is to freeze the layers. So that freezing prevents any inadvertent editing of anything within those layers. I think if you just turn it off, it just turns off the visibility, but you could still accidentally erase something or whatever. So I'd rather just freeze those layers, and it makes them invisible as well. So now we could see the outline of our house, but as you can see, the dashes are so small. So what I'm gonna do, the scale kind of changes. What I want to do is fix that scaling issue for that dashed line. So to fix the line type scale, we simply have to change the line type scale. So we click this. One of the easiest ways to do that is here in the inspector. In AutoCAD, they call this the properties panel. So here you just, do I have it selected? Yeah, I have it selected. You just hit, you just update the line type scale. So I'm just gonna play with it. It's a little hard to really gauge. So you just have to play with whatever works. So I'm gonna start with just line type scale of 12. If I escape, that looks a little bit better, but we could probably do just a little bit better. Let me try 24. Escape. Let me try just a little bit more. Let me try 48. I think 48 works. I think that looks the best. But okay, great. Well, thank you all for joining me today, and I'll see you all next time.